Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube. Fan debates, live watch-alongs, post-match reactions, and all the Foxes banter you could ask for. Subscribe now and see the game through Blue Tinted Glasses.
Well then, Mahrez has made something of that. It's Mahrez! 2-0 to Leicester City!
Next to it, Anthony Knocker finds Wood. Wood should score. Wood West Knocker. Yes!
Here comes Leicester again with Heskey and Ibbett! Oh, this is incredible!
Got Jamie Vardy with him. Jamie Vardy sets off. Jamie Vardy!
Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube.
Hello there, it's Tuesday night, and that means on Blue Tinted Glasses it can mean only one thing. It's time for Tuesday Night Tactics. It's our time when we try and play Football Manager, look back at the game on a weekend, and analyse where it went right and when it went wrong. But tonight, I am joined, the Stella Artois to my Peroni beer. It's the one and only, our favourite ever Danish friend. It's Andreas, Mr. Duck, quack, quack. Good evening. How are you?
I've missed it, Neil. Don't start speaking so fancy, mate. I'm a bit too drunk for that. But regardless, though, I'm very excited. I have missed our Tuesday evening. Call it Tuesday Night Tactics or analysis or whatever you want. I think it's going to be a good one, right? Some new rookies making their debut. Obviously, some making a very short debut, I think is the way I'll phrase it. But good spirits and things I can get behind in this team, despite only gaining a point.
Yeah, we've definitely made a promising start, which is good to see. So as Tower says, evening everyone, let's dig into it. Let's do that. So here we go. Here are the stats from the game. 2-2 it finished. And I think that before the game, we'd have been disappointed with a result like this. But this was one of those games where it was a draw that felt like a win. Although, in my opinion, I actually think we maybe even could have won it, which we'll get to at the end. But you can see that Oxford did have, they shaded all the stats pretty much. But we made a good recovery, given what happened. From what you got to see of the game, Duck, how are you feeling after this particular game?
I'll say I felt a bit deflated, right, in the first half. I think before the red card, we weren't the strongest of the two teams, which was the main disappointment for me, I want to say, because 11 versus 11 against Oxford, we should always be the greater team. From when Aaron Ramsey got sent off, I thought I saw decent discipline and a good fight to try and keep us in it, because I think how will Marti deal with a 10-man against 11? Because when you're so much about this fluent system with someone occupying each other's space when they go and make the run and you go and make the pass, I was very worried how it was going to look when it was, 10-man trying to make that work. So I'm going to say I was overall, from what I managed to watch, somewhat impressed with how we worked. We ran those extra meters and extra, I don't want to say miles, but maybe even miles, 10 versus 11. But I don't want to say it was the most calming performance out there, right? Would have liked a clean 2-0 victory here again, just like we did against Birmingham.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we play this game every week, so let's do it again this time around. What do you think we're going to be discussing on tonight's show?
From what I managed to watch in the first half, I'm going to say rotations, I think, was a big part of it. There's so many players switching in and out of positions. And I think the more and more we see the system grow, I see more people moving into each other's space. And then, the people making the run and making the space in behind and whatnot. And obviously, we're going to be talking about the defensive work, because you're playing 10 versus 11. You're going to have to deal with the pressure. I think, just like we saw against Birmingham, and we've seen it against Charlton as well, Oxford were willing to go man for man, and what that meant is we're going to have to play our way out of this pressure, and that's a tough task.
Okay, interesting. Well, what we're going to cover today is the following. We're going to talk about sloppiness from both sides. We're going to talk about the use of Aaron Ramsey, because that was obviously a debutant. We're going to see what he was doing and what he's working in the system. We're going to talk about Marti's great tactical tweaks, really showing his experience as a manager at halftime to get the best out of a team with 10 men. And then we're going to talk about what the plan is going forward. So, Mr. Leicester City boys, that's what we'll be talking about, the tactics against Coventry. But, to talk tactics, you've got to understand what did and didn't work in the game you've just looked at. That's part of the job. So that's what we're going to do here today. So let's get right into it. This was how we lined up. And as you can see, we did have one debutant. So Louis Page was injured. So he stepped out and in came Aaron Ramsey, not the Welsh wizard, but the younger brother of Jacob Ramsey, who's joined us on loan from Burnley. He stepped into the number 10 role. Otherwise, it was pretty much as you expected. I have to say, I think a lot of us were a bit surprised that Ricardo didn't make an appearance. He did obviously come on at halftime. What did you think of this starting lineup, Doug?
I think it's very fair, right? I'm not going to lie. Maybe even would have liked to see Lewis Page keep his spot, right? You come from a 2-0 victory against Birmingham at home where it maybe wasn't the most comfortable in terms of a dominating performance, but it was a pretty safe 6 or 3 points. I remember watching the game from Sweden, feeling very confident watching the second half when I just got back to the hotel room and there weren't much in doubt. The chances we gave away weren't bad, and I thought we played well on the break. Like, a lot of positives. So I understand why you want to keep with that, but I was, in total, a bit surprised we didn't see one of the, new players make a debut outside of Ramsey, who, obviously ended up getting sent off. But overall, I'll say very pleased considering the current picture before the international break.
Yeah, wise to hear, right, Ethan? Page wasn't 100% fit. That's why he didn't feature in the squad at all. But as Sean is putting here, was a little bit of a surprise we didn't see Carranza at all, although I think we would have if the game would have been 11 versus 11. But I will talk about that near the end because I've got a feeling we will see him play a part against Coventry. So let's take a look at it. And so here's Oxford. Now, they sort of lined up according to SofaScore as a 4-4-2, but as you'll see, they actually played a 4-2-3-1. I'm going to keep saying this till the end of time, but my claim to fame is that I once did a coaching session where I had an 11-year-old Will Lancashire as part of that coaching session. This is one of the Spurs youth teams, so it's pretty incredible seeing him become a professional footballer. Premier League 2 Player of the Year a couple of years ago as well. So this is how they lined up. I have to say, I think their team was a lot better than I expected, although you can probably see why they're going to be struggling in the Championship. But just sort of showing you the match in a nutshell, I mean, you can kind of see that as soon as we lost a man, which is exactly what Ray's talking about here, we had to retreat very deep. I think normally we would have been probably way higher up on the pitch. That's what we ideally would have wanted to do. But in the end, we had to dip back. But we will talk about this in a minute. But keep your eye out on number 30. That is Aaron Ramsey. And you can see that he was actually the player that was furthest forward. And I think he played a lot further forward than even El Khanous did in this particular system. So something to keep out for. And here you can see that, yeah, Oxford ended up with a 5-man attack. And they did cause us problems. So let's talk about the first thing, and I'm going to talk about unforced errors at both sides. Unfortunately, this is something that is creeping into our game a little bit. Is that because of the lineups that we start with? We'll have to take a look. But it's something that is a bit annoying because I think Locke shared with me, there's a table showing you both the first half and the second half. And it's like Leicester is actually, in terms of second half performance, is the best team in the league. But the first half, we're like near the bottom. So it shows you that we slow a bit start. So we know that we are kind of weak on transition, but this is sort of something that is quite frustrating, I think, as a Leicester fan. This is just 2 minutes into the game. You can see Fatau, who's got to the byline, and he's going to go for a cross. So this is perfect. There's nothing wrong with this. It's exactly what you want to see. It goes out for a corner, but unfortunately, we've got this big lump in the team. Now, I do have to say that I think Yannick actually had a very good game overall, but with Yannick, you know what you're going to get, right? He's going to be great on the ball. When he's facing goal and you're possession dominant, he can really dictate the pace. But you always carry a weakness with him. So here you can see he's up top, going for the corner. He's one of our tallest players, makes sense. But the corner breaks. It's not his fault. It ends up breaking to Oxford. So Oxford get on the ball. And what I love here is here's Yannick. I've ringed him here. And as you'll see in the move, Yannick's like, I'm not even going to bother sprinting back. You know it, I know it. It's a waste of time me sprinting. I might as well stand here in case you win the ball back so you've got a big lump to head back to so I can go for another attack. So Oxford end up on the attack, and you can see that this is actually quite a dangerous situation because we tried to do a high press. Look how many people are up top and how many people are out of position even, and that was a big problem. You can actually see we've actually got only one other man back, which we'll come to at the moment. So there's 9 men forward here for Leicester, and this ball through is going to mean that Oxford are almost through 1-on-1. So what ends up happening is Samare, fair play, he comes back and he makes a tactical foul and he gets booked just 2 minutes and 44 seconds into the game. So he's really made up for Yannick. And yeah, we just go back here just to show you that's exactly where he was. He's not even in the shot here by the time the foul is committed. You can see that Hamza was just about to do his sliding tackle to try and win the ball. So I don't know. Maybe it's a good job that Samare did get the booking because Hamza might have got a red. And of course, we got a red a little bit later. So that was kind of annoying. But
just to
yeah.
say on this, right? I think obviously like FIFA's coming out on Friday, and we all know Vesta goes slow, as all things, right? We complained about that for as long as I've been, doing this show with UNL. But I think this year in the championship, if you just look at the stats from what FIFA have, counted out, they're not correct all the time, of course, but he is the slowest player in the championship, and it's it's definitely a weakness you can feel when he's not on the ball, right? I've been the one, I want to say, praising his on the ball game, but there is no doubt off the ball that a lot of space for improvement on very old now Yannick Vestergaard.
Well, that is something you just got to be acknowledged of. And what I would say is that the team shape is set up correctly. And maybe actually Booba didn't need to make the foul, but I don't really have a problem with him doing it, even if it's early into the game. I think, it's a Guardiola type foul. You have to make it when it's necessary. But I do think it affected his game thereafter. And I do think that Yannick should be, saying thank you to him because he obviously, caused a lot of problems. So that was a little bit of a sign of things to come. So we end up with the first Oxford goal. So Jakob, it's interesting. I think he's a good keeper, but I think now that we're seeing him play, Locks made the comment after the game is like he's not convinced that Stolarczyk is a championship winning goalkeeper. He thinks he might be more of a sort of keeper that's good enough for the top half playoffs, but maybe not quite elite. And I think that could be fair. So here we can see Oxford get the ball, falls to Matty Phillips. He's going to go for a strike, puts his strike at Stolarczyk, and Stolarczyk makes the save, which is fair enough. But I know we've got a lot of people in the goalkeepers union in here, so you can give me your own opinions on this. But what he does is he parries the ball, but he's going to parry the ball out here, which is, of course, the danger zone, which means Oxford can kind of get onto it. I would like to have seen him try and parry it much wider if he's going to go for that, or maybe even smother it. It is true that the ball takes like a little bit of an awkward bounce before it gets to him, but I do think that this is one of these things that, you're going to get. Yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Common Boy here. I think he needed to parry it more. He ends up parrying it. You can see here. Fair play to him. He tries to make himself big to stop the shot going in. Gets crossed back in for Lancashire, and Lancashire sticks it away. That's 1-0 Oxford, and that's very early in the game. So this is really frustrating. It just felt like a goal that we could do a lot better with. I would actually go to say that this goal even originated sort of not immediately, but did it sort of come off the back of a corner that was unnecessary to concede? So frustrating. And it's just one of these things that you have to be honest and say that so far we've not really had good performances in the league. I mean, I think we've got good results. I think we have had good moments and good recoveries, but it's difficult to sort of argue that we've been as good as some other teams in the league. And someone's saying here, nobody's marking Lancashire's run. Fair enough. I think if you look at it, it's just the reaction, right? I think Yannick and the other defenders, when you see Jakob making it there, you're probably expecting he's going to save it, not that he's going to fumble it. He does. And to be fair, the two players do react, but they just haven't reacted as quick because they're not expecting it. They're turning on it. You say grab him, but then that would be a penalty. So I don't know. I know what you're saying. You could say
it's a bit on Jakob, right? I think you expected to, as you say, either be smothered or just, small bounce. The keeper gets to it again. I think Jakob has had a few mistakes. This was top 2.
I think we might have lost stuck there, but I'll continue. So yeah, I think, it's one of those. I can definitely see it both sides. I know that after the game, Marty said he was pretty upset with both the goals that we conceded, but it's one of those things. I think it's something to learn from, and I think there's mistakes on different sort of sides there. No one is tracking back, that's for sure, on a kind of recovery. So that led to 1-0. But luckily for us, we got into the game pretty quickly. And the way that we got in is that we managed to basically get Uncle Ayew back, right? So it was really good to see him finding his form again. He hadn't scored until this game, so it's about time that he got on the score sheet. And you can see here that he's following the play, finds a scuffy back pass from Oxford and latches onto it. So I've circled Ayew here. You can see his eyes. He's got his eyes on the ball. He's waiting for the pressing trigger. And in this case, the pressing trigger is Oxford playing the ball back to the keeper. You see Ayew's got here. And, Ayew's not the fastest player. But despite that, he knows how to get onto it and, put something in. So he gets the ball. It's a poor back pass, you've got to say, from Oxford. It was Vardy-esque, wasn't it? You have to say it's definitely the Temu version, isn't it, of Jamie Vardy, because the pace is just so much slower compared to the Premier League. But you've got to give it credit to it. The Unk still got it. He gets onto it. You know, because I can't show you the footage here, it doesn't do him a service because he does like a nice little shimmy with the body shape to throw off both the goalkeeper and the defender. And that allows him to stick it in the back of the net. And that's a goal that he's basically made all of himself. So really good to see him get on the score sheet. You know, this is one of the big things, I think, for making signings, is that signing players is also going to push your existing players to, you know, up their game. So whilst we might want to see, I mean, fair enough. Sean says he doesn't want to see Ayew start another game. But I think Ayew had a pretty good game overall in this one. He did a lot of good stuff. And if by signing Carranza it improves Ayew's level, that's only a win for Leicester. And look, we only have one more season of him. So it's good to see him back to his good self. And that got us back to 1-1. So that, of course, takes us to the main talking point of the game, which is Aaron Ramsey. And unfortunately, this has got to be one of the worst debuts I can remember, because I can't remember a player getting sent off this early. I do remember Ben Mee also getting sent off. Put in chat if you can think of anything worse. The only one that really springs to mind for me was Dennis Wise on his debut. We lost 5-0 to Bolton, and you could see he was just off the pace from the get-go. And Dennis Wise is someone we should probably draw a line under his sordid history at Leicester. But what I want to show of Aaron Ramsey is, you know, before he got sent off, is a lot of us were very intrigued, right? Bilal had been sold. So now Marty's brought in a player. But with El Khanous, he is a good player, but I don't think he had a kind of set role within the Marti system. I think he could have been playing as a sort of wide midfielder, but I don't think he really was like what we're seeing here, which is a true sort of number 10 in this kind of system. So you can see that whilst he was on the pitch, Ramsey was both playing centrally and playing in this sort of position. The camera is much better for there now, Duck, which is good to see.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, man. My PC just like blacked out, couldn't see a thing, and then it just cut out. So
no worries, you've come back for the good part. We're going to talk about how Aaron Ramsey was used. So here you can see, like, what's very interesting looking at some of these shots before he was sent off is that this is the Marti system, right? So Marti ideally wants us to play like this. He wants us to play this kind of 3-1-3-3 shape when we're in possession. And one of the reasons for that is to create really sharp angles so you can pass the ball quickly, one touch between the lines, and make a lot of chances. But the other big thing that you really see that he likes doing, and the reason why Ayew is in the team, is that Ayew and Ramsey will interchange like this. Oh, I didn't realize Dion Dublin got sent off even earlier. That's actually crazy. He got 17 minutes, fair enough. So he's not even the fastest player to get sent off. But yeah, what you'll see is that Ayew will drop in here to be the false nine, and that will leave Ramsey as the player that's furthest forward. So that's why I think El Khanous was probably not well suited to this role, because Bilal is a very good player, but the one weakness he's got is his finishing. It's something that he should have scored. For how good a player he is and the scoring positions he gets into, he's poor at finishing. Ramsey, when we saw the clips when Jack joined the show last week, it was very exciting to see that he seemed very composed. Maybe not composed in the tackle, but it did look like he's good at finishing. So something to keep an eye out on in the future. So here you can see already that his position, and you can, like I say, you can see that he's playing very centrally compared to it. And look, you can see that shape now, although in this case we've got two and the two fullbacks are pushed up, but you can see, look, we're creating these triangles, so we've got all these sort of passing opportunities, and we'll see that in the goal that we scored a bit later. It was pretty nice to see. But here was how he was being used. And here you can see again that here Jordan Ayew is drifted out onto the left-hand side as the false nine, and he's dragging defenders with him. And that means that Ramsey is the most central player. He's often going to be the one that arrives in the box first, perhaps. And he's going to oftentimes find himself free because of that space that Jordan Ayew makes of him. So that's something that we're going to look out for. And here you can see, again, this is the opportunity when Fatal was going to cross it in. And you can see that he's joining the attack. You see trying to maybe drift into this space for the cutback or to join Ayew. So, you know, our system's often about finding the free man. Here you can see that also Oliver Skip's made the move in there. And you can see that Hamza's made the move all the way from right back into an attacking number 8. So it's a very fluid system. I think we saw signs of it in this game of how it could work. And I think it is something exciting to see. But we're going to need a few more games for it to really work. And that's why I think Coventry will be a tough test, because we haven't had that much time on the training.
I think just to summary, right, and a bit on what Ramsey brought to the team, I think it was very clear, as you just said, right? Like, this needed time to learn and develop. I think he grew really well into the game, and he was just about to score. Like, I thought, oh, this is going to be exciting. And then he made that dumb tackle that gave him a red card, and you're like, oh, this is a bummer. Not only are we going down to 10 men, but this was a player who was also quite clearly starting to find his space, starting to find his runs, and
Yeah.
really actually add to the team as well, which is now so more annoying. We'll see how long he's out for, right? I think a straight red is 3 games unless you know.
That's the worst
it's
thing.
Complained, so that it's a month until we see Ramsey again in action, unless we complain about it and get it down to like a 1-game suspension.
Yeah, I don't think
Suspension
we're
or something
do
like that, which is a bit unrealistic, but it's a big bummer because I really thought he was growing his way into the team, you could say, from just these 25 minutes he was actually playing. His role got bigger and bigger and he became a more central part, and I thought he found himself in a lot of correct spaces, and it's just annoying he ended up, playing WWE instead of playing football.
Yeah, well, I'm going to show you his best bits and his worst bits. You're totally right to say that. I think for large parts of the game, he did sort of get bypassed, but when he got involved, he did start doing some good kind of stuff. So here we can see, here's Yannick on the ball. I'm going to see some of the patterns. He's going to play it into Hamza here. Again, you can see the angles. So he's got a nice angled pass into Booba there. So you're going to play it into Booba. And now you can see that Ramsey's going to drift from the 10 position into this space that's vacated. So that, again, you can see it's all about these nice Barcelona-esque triangles. Pass it into Ramsey. And I love this. He does a little back heel half volley pass into Skip is what he's going to go for. So that's the pass he's going for. Look at that. Love that. Nice technique. Fine Skip. And now he's going to make the run into the space that he's created for himself by dragging the player with him. So Skip's going to get the ball and he's going to try and look the ball here. And what I like here is you've got both Booba and potentially Ramsey who can pick this up. Now, unfortunately, this ball gets cut off, but this again shows you potentially how good the system is, because if Skip did find Ramsey with that ball, you can see already just the sort of havoc that could be caused here, right? He could play a through ball here into Ayew, who's drops into the false 9 to make that space. He could play the ball all the way across here to Mavididi. He could pick up the ball and drive himself. He could actually, I didn't even ring it here, but he could play in for Tawu, or he could drop another ball in for Sumare. So this is a sort of style that we're going to try and do here, right? This is to understand how Marti wants us to play. He's going to use Ramsey at times to create this extra space. So look here, playing a back move again. He's going to drag this defender with him from further up in the move. That's going to make the space for him. And now that space has made itself in there. You've basically dragged the high line of Oxford when they started as a deep block and made that space in behind. So it's sort of similar to Enzo, but he's doing it in a different way. And I actually prefer this way, but it has pros and cons. The con being that the passing must be smooth and fast. And in this case, it gets cut out. So it kind of leaves you vulnerable. But the plus side is I think it can be more effective. And when your team really clicks, it can look a lot more exciting and it will be more aggressive.
I'll say as well, like, just go back one screenshot, right? If they want to go man for man and we don't really play with a striker, right? If you look at both how Ayew and Ramsey's positioned, look at how far up the pitch they get. 1-2 good touches and a good pass into space for Mavididi, a Jeremy Manga, a Fatawa, right? One of these guys with a lot of pace. All of a sudden, there's a lot to run into, and I think later in the game, we'll obviously see Mavididi having a big chance with just running one-on-one against another player, and I'm not sure I'm a big believer in playing without a striker, with how fluid Ayew is playing as the number 9. But I can definitely see some strength in it, just like the screenshot you've got here. A lot of runs to be made and a lot of passes to be played into space that could lead to a dangerous chance if dealt with properly.
Yeah, the thing with Ayew is that it's not that he does badly, it's just his lack of pace. Because if he was fast, then he'd be a little bit further up here to be able to join the attack. That's where he kind of lets himself down a bit. But everything else he does is actually very good. But yeah, here, just before he gets sent off, this is the thing that you were talking about. We have a corner. It comes to Ramsey. He has a decent effort here. Actually tests the keeper into a save. So again, you could see he was eager to make his mark, but you saw that he had got good technique. I've never really seen Bilal going for shots from this sort of angle, so it was good to see. So just as everyone's like, oh, hello, it looks like he's arrived in the game. He's announced himself. Unfortunately, he did announce himself. And as you can see here, I know that after the game, Marti said that he didn't think it was a red card. I know a lot of people in chat didn't think it was a red either. And to be fair, it was, I could see this being given as a yellow. But I mean, look at where the ball is. He's off the ground. He's made the challenge here. And it's a stupid challenge to make. He doesn't need to make it because, look, he's got support there from Thomas. So it's just someone who's trying to, as Sean's called it right here, he wants to impress, but my goodness, it's just a bozo moment. Let me see if I've got the
screenshot looks horrific. A lot worse than I remember it as, just, by watching the game, right? I think, like, from first glance, maybe it could have been just a harsh yellow. But when I saw the replays, right, and the more angles you saw it from it, like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be complaining that was a red, because it is very rash, I think is the word to say it.
I think it says it all that as soon as he made the challenge, the first thing that Ramsey did is he looked at the referee. And when you're doing that, it means that you know you could be in trouble. So red card it was, and that completely changed the game. And then unfortunately, just to compound it, Booba, who was booked earlier, just to make things even worse. This is really frustrating as well, right? So from this point on, I've got to say, you know, we were up against it. You know, we had to deal with the man that we got sent off. Marti did change it well. I think maybe the one thing you could criticize him is I don't think we handled sort of between getting sent off and half time. There was like, it was basically 1/4 of the match that Ramsey was sent off for, right? So we still had a quarter to play before we even got to half time. And we almost got to half time, but we didn't. And I think that ultimately was a killer, because I got a feeling if we'd have got in at 1-1, we probably would have won the game, right? So Oxford have a corner here, and because he got that man short, again, I have to say though, it's a very unfortunate goal. It's not like it's an amazing corner or anything like that. You can see it comes to Caleb Okoli. He sort of slightly misjudges the header, gets something on it, but not quite enough. It ends up getting deflected. It actually then comes off another man and just hits Booba straight in the face. Classic Booba being a statue. It's not his fault, right? He couldn't really react to it.
It's unfortunate. It's a
Yeah.
It's a really shitty goal to concede at any point of the game. But when you're like 2 minutes away from half time, when you're a man down, and that's obviously when the tactical changes are gonna come. It's really, really deflating, because if you could go at it 1-1 with a man down, you're pleased, you're happy, you can work with that, right? And instead you're walking with a very negative and deflating atmosphere.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was really annoying to concede at that point in time. And I think at this point, most of us probably thought that's it, it's game over. But let me ask you here, right? So Marti did change the game. But if you're looking at these stats, you can see here that in the first half, Oxford had 62% possession. You would have probably thought it'd be the other way around if we had 11 versus 11. And they make loads of shots, only one big chance, which was fair enough, but they were completely dominating the game. So if you were the manager here, what would you do in this situation? Because this is what we were discussing at half time on that game.
I mean, I think it's a very difficult situation, right? Because if you go in a 1-1, being 10 men, I think the main goal is very clear. Be solid defensively and try and play on the break. The issue is when you need a goal, you might expect the HSP to be a bit more comfortable in possession, be a bit more slow, and want you to make the game happen. Because, you know, they're leading, they're getting 3 points. They couldn't be asking for more. If it's 5-1 or 2-1, doesn't really matter if you're Oxford United. So you want to make some moves where I want to say you have the players bold enough to make the move and make the offensive plays happen without being too exposed on the break. And that's a very difficult area to hit. It's a sweet spot, realistically, I want to say, of, you know, players who can contribute equally offensively and defensively. And I think he got it, you know, hit the nail on the head in terms of the changes he made, because bringing Ricardo on is something that will always get me very happy.
Well, look, I got to say, I've been super impressed with Marti with his changes. So what we said, and we were right, so Marti saw it as well, is that basically we just couldn't even get going. Sean is right that we couldn't just go all out. We'd get punished and exposed with 10 men if we tried to be too direct. So what we needed to do is we needed to get control of the game. That was 62% possession. We were never even going to get started. So if you have a look at this with the second half stats, look at that. We actually had more possession in that second half than they did, even though we only had 10 men.
That's really impressive as 10 men. Really,
very
really
impressive, right? So
and
that shows... Yeah,
I'm going to interrupt just one last time before we really get into the nitty-gritty of it, right? Because it's something I think my QPR mate, who's, you know, obviously watched a lot of Cifuentes over these past few years, been very into. One of the worries that, you know, I will say worried me about when Marti came in was his use of substitution. He said his game management and use of substitution is some of the worst he's ever seen at QPR. Like, it was poor, it was too late, it was the wrong players, it didn't help them. It felt like when they started making the substitutions, they fell more apart. And, like, you know, that really made me, in terms of how I looked at Marti's management, is, you know, I'm keeping a big lens on how are you handling the substitutions at what time. And it's not just this game I'm looking at in isolations and the numbers you show me right now, but in general with these 5 or whatever league games it is now we've seen from Marti, I've been very impressed. He's been proactive when we've been behind. He's read the game well. And as you said, and think back to the Birmingham game as well, he changed the game with the substitutions where in that game, 2 subs got the goal, Ricardo and Manga. And this time, Ricardo got the 2-2 equalizer on the back of a Cifuentes change, which is, more importantly for me, a big sign of growth from a manager who might not have gotten a lot of praise for his subs in the past, who's now, making decisive subs, which is really, really positive.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, I'm probably giving a kiss of death by saying this, but I can't actually remember a Leicester City manager in my lifetime that's been this good at making subs, because Ranieri was fairly predictable. Enzo didn't make enough for me. Pearson was quite good, but, I've never seen someone that really changed the game properly. So here, like I say, this is what he's done. He made 5 changes in the end, but you can see the big 2 that he made was Ricardo and Harry Winks. And those 2 gave us control of the game. The ballers. We needed ballers on that pitch who could get us playing. We might still concede. We might still lose the game. But if we don't get that foot in the game, we're never going to have a chance.
Jordan James as well, right? Obviously, again, I didn't manage to watch much of the second half as I was heading out. But I did see on Twitter, about the last-minute tackle he made. And seeing the clip as it got posted on Leicester Social as well. Really pleasing seeing someone at the end of the game making a very tough run and a very tough tackle to dig us out of what, could have been a whole heap of trouble if we'd lost that game 3-2.
Yeah, I don't actually have that clip, unfortunately, but we can talk about it anyway. Sean, though, maybe one point I'll say to you, which is maybe the one negative thing you could say, is that should he have made these changes earlier? Because you could say that maybe as soon as you go a man down, you need to get that baller on right away. I don't know. We can discuss that at the end of the show. I've got some kind of differences to say. And Tower, I totally agree with you. So, do you know what, Tower? I will actually say that it's not just the 2 there, right? But I'm going to give credit to 3 people. And it's interesting a few people have already said here that they're not happy with Vestergaard. But as we'll see, for me, the biggest difference in our team is these 3 when they're on the pitch together. Because when all 3 of these are on the pitch together, we have control of the game. We can direct it where we want the ball to go to, and we can shift the defensive lock from the opposition team around, and that makes chances for us. It does make us a bit weaker on transition because all 3 of these players are no longer the fastest, the strongest, or the toughest in the challenge.
I'll very much second this on Vestergaard, right? I think it's something, obviously, we talked about it even in the Premier League as well, because his flaws are so glaringly obvious when they get exposed in the slightest. It looks so clear. He doesn't have the pace to beat his man when he's trying to run for a 1v1. He's always going to lose it on pace. And he has to try and hide those attributes. And I've said sometimes it makes him go into rash challenges because he knows if he doesn't make the tackle now, he'll never get the chance to make it because he'll lose on pace. Like the weakness is so obvious. And that's what I've seen so many people moaning about. But I think when you have technical players with him, you start seeing the strength, you start seeing how good he is on the ball, the passes he starts to make, and I'm not going to say that makes up for his glaring weakness, but it's just, I'm hoping that, with what you've highlighted here for me, Anil, these 3 very good technical players, that we'll see some of that strength utilized from Yannick Vestergaard, which would be a big positive for me.
Well, see, I'm going to contrast that by showing you someone who I think has been quite disappointing in the championship so far, and that's been Okoli. So what our problem was in the first half, and this showed us this straight in a second as well, is that he kept giving the ball away in dangerous areas. So here's a position where Okoli's got the ball. Before he receives the ball here, by the way, we'd made about 12 passes altogether, which was more than any other time in the match. So all he has to do here is play a simple pass into Ricardo to keep us going. And what does he do with it? He put it out of play. And so this was so frustrating, right? Because, there's no pressure there. If he's under pressure, maybe it's more understandable, but it breaks down the attack. So now I'm going to compare that to how Vestergaard operated with the others. But what I'm going to show you here, this is the full build-up for the sequence. So this isn't just going to be what you saw near the highlights or extended highlights. It's the full move. I got the whole match. And this, for me, is Marti-ball. And I think this is why you should get excited, because this is going to actually show you all, in my opinion, the key concepts that he's going to be using. And it led to a goal. It was a great team goal. And for me, that's what I really like in football. I think when there's a goal that's scored because you as a team work together, there's nothing better than it, in my opinion. Even if I do love a spectacular, someone hits it in from 40 yards or whatever like that. So, first thing to note is that despite the fact that we were getting on the ball and playing a lot more passing, under Marti, we are prepared to go long and direct more often than we did with Enzo. So Yannick's on the ball here, and this time round, he's just going to hit it into a diagonal. And he's going to, even though we're a man short, we're going to try that. And in this case, we're going to try and hit Ayew, who's operating as the false 9. So he goes direct, and he does find Ayew. And what you can see here is immediately then players are going to try and join into him to try and move us up the pitch. Now, in this case, the defender actually deals with it, managed to get it off Ayew. But then when we lose the ball, what do we try and do? We try and press quickly and win the ball back. So here you can see he might not have much hair, but Ollie Skip, he's got the team message and he's going to try and get back and win the ball back. And he manages to force the Oxford player into kicking it out to give us a throw in. But here's what I like as well, is that rather than waiting a long time to take the throw, which is the sort of thing that we would do under Enzo likes to slow the game down and get people
you'd play it back, right? Get the centre-backs played around a few times and then start looking to build up.
Not just that though, but he would actually instruct the player to take their time when taking the throw, deliberately so that the players can find their position. Because as you can imagine, because we've kicked the ball forward, some players are still moving back into position for Oxford, right? So for that reason, Ollie Skip, to give him credit, he realised that. And even though the ball is here, you can see that there's a ball there ready to go. So he runs up to it and takes the throw in quickly. So that's another thing, right? We're talking about the speed of Cifuentes. He wants to play the game faster than what we did with Enzo. So he's going to play the ball straight away. He's going to play this into the channel here. That's Mavadidi on the ball. Mavadidi's coming off. So I think that might even be Ricardo that's pushed up that high. So he's played it into our midfielder. Midfielder's going to play it back. And now, this is what I really like. So now we're going to make the goal, but we actually make the goal after a sustained attack. So it's not just the first attack that we do. So Ayew's got the ball. You can see here now that the team's moved a lot higher up. He's going to play this back into Thomas. So Thomas has come up here to invert into the 8 position. Thomas has got the ball here. He's going to now try and play it back to Skip. So again, it's about triangles. Skip's got the ball, and he's now going to play it into Winks, who's also joined the attack, right? And he's going to be the main controller, the regista of the game. So Skip's played it into Winks. Winks has got it. And Winks, first time, he's going to play it into Ricardo. So now we're looking to shift the ball to the other side. And Ricardo now, he's under pressure, so he's going to play it back to Yannick. So here's the 3. Here are the 3 guys that are going to give you control in the game. Plays it back into Yannick. Yannick gets the ball. Yannick, you can see that. Like, I love that. Like, he's faking to pass it here to Okoli, but he does his trademark, drops the shoulder, puts kind of the boxer player back on his backside almost, and steps forward with the ball. And that's another underrated thing with Yannick compared to other defenders. And this is why I think Enzo rates him so highly, is that he's able to play as a kind of almost a regista himself, but a centre-back. So he's happy to wait here. He's going to be under pressure from 3 players, but take his time before playing the pass. He's going to play it here into Thomas. Thomas is now going to play it into Ayew. And look at Yannick. Look at now how high up he is in the attack, right? So
he's essentially a midfielder, right? And it's very much
he's
making
actually
up for
rotated
the lack
with Winks.
of numbers, you could say.
Yeah, can you see he's rotated position with Winks? So because he's going to step up, Winks is going to drop back to fill in for that gap. So Ayew's got the ball here, and this is what Ayew did, which was well, is that this time around in this game, he didn't keep the ball for a long time.
He plays the pass.
He does.
Can you believe it?
So he's got a couple of options here, but he goes for the more difficult pass and plays it into Yannick. Yannick gets the ball. Now I'm going to highlight a few players here. So we've got Fatawu, we've got Chowdhury, and we've got Ricardo. And again, this is how the team's all working, despite having a man less all together. So Yannick gets the ball. He's going to play it into Hamza. Hamza was deployed into midfield in the second half, with Ricardo playing on the right-hand side. Hamza going to play the ball first time, plays it into Ricardo here. Now we've got Fatawu, who is dropping in to be more as the 10 in this half rather than the winger. Ricardo's going to play it to Fatawu. He's going to continue his run. So Fatawu, first time, plays the ball with a nice pass. And that's good. He could be greedy here and go for the shot, but he's not playing hero ball. He relies on the system, plays in the ball. And then Ricardo, first time, I love this. That's the secret here. Hits it first time. It's a great finish. You can see here. And look, he's already celebrating. He knows he scored, puts it in the back of the net. And that is 2-2. No, yeah, 2-2 even, and the equalizer. So I wanted to show you the whole move there, because for me, that was gloriously put together. If you look at the whole move, that's probably us in possession for over a minute. We've shifted their block left to right. How many players are involved in that move? 5 or 6 different players. Everyone's playing a part, and it was glorious to see. So imagine if we had 11 men, how much better we might be with it. So for me now, we did say that any manager, is going to take a while for their ideas to really present themselves and for the players to get used to the relationships with one another. But that was really good to see. And as you say, it was a great team celebration. And I think they felt happy. You're right, Azola, that Winks definitely seemed to change his attitude. But I think, for me as well, I think if you play in a team that plays that kind of football, you're going to enjoy it. And Sean, you're right about Vestergaard. He is too slow to be a regista, but that's why he's ended up in a centre-back position. But as you can see in this move, he did a lot, and he was awesome to kind of see there. So that was Marti-ball. That makes me excited. And I actually think we always had a chance to win it. So I'm going to show you this here. This was Skip. So here we are near the end. We might even have nicked it. So this is a Coley on the ball, 2-2. He's going to play this in actually to Thomas. You can see that Skip has pushed up here to be the extra man here in these kind of attacking triangles. And Thomas is going to play this first time to the other fullback, which is Ricardo. So again, it shows you how aggressive we are there. In this game, we had just two people back, and both of the defenders were inverting, almost sort of Ange style. He plays it into Ricky P. Ricky P gets the ball and he drives with it, which is really nice to see. And by driving with it, he's going to take defenders with him. So now he's got a pass out here to Ayew, or he could try and thread the ball here through to Skip. So he decides to go for the ball to Ayew. But what I really like about Ricardo here is that rather than standing still, what he does is he's going to continue his run. So by continuing his run this way, you'll be able to see here, Duck, that what it means is it opens up this passing lane in for Skip. So again, this is the kind of a fluid dynamic system, how you're going to be dragging players around you. A lot of teams are going man for man against Leicester this season. And so Ayew now has this opportunity to put the ball into Skip. Skip's going to get the ball here. And you can see, look at that. That's, again, really good system football, because we've managed to engineer a chance, even though we have 10 men, where one of our attacking players, in theory, I know it's Skip, but he gets the ball in this position. And look, you can see he's actually got some time and space here. So this is my one criticism. I think that if this is a Ramsey, or maybe if this is a Dewsbury Hall, to be fair, I don't think Canoes would do this here. But I think a good attacking midfielder here, as soon as he gets the ball, he's going to do one of two things. He's either going to go for the shot himself immediately, or he's going to play the through ball here to Jordan James, who's making the run here. Or maybe he even tries to play the ball in here, but he's going to do something here. Yeah, and Ray, this is the thing, right? It's funny how the game will give you chances, but what I'm saying here is actually the system that's created the chances, right? So that's why system football and positional play has become the norm over the last probably the last decade or so. So Skip gets it, and you can see, look, he's sort of thinking about it, but he's a bit unsure what to do. So he could go for the shot here, but he cuts in, and here I think he could go for a shot.
Oh, it looks so clear there, right? Just one screenshot back, maybe a few.
Yeah.
Like that one, just a sweet ball in between the midfielders to Jordan James making the run. And he could.
Well, that's the other thing. So again, he could either go for the shot or put the through ball through, but he takes another touch. And now Jordan James does continue his run. So now at this point, they're kind of getting in each other's way. So he has to go round Jordan James. And then finally, he's at this point, and now he sort of goes for the shot. And at this point, it's still not the greatest shot either. And it gets well dealt with by the keeper. But what you're seeing is that, yeah, I mean, it's whether the person the chance falls to can take it. And so, look, that's the thing with Skip is I think, if he's going to sort of play this way, this is the problem. I think a lot of us said this at the start of the season, that Skip and Soumare, if you look at the history of the way they played the game, they don't offer you much in terms of assists or goals. That's just a fact, right? It's something they really need to work on. Now, to be fair, you could have said that about Dewsbury Hall as well. And when he played under Enzo, he added that to his game like it was going out of business, right? 17 goals, 10 assists. So that's the challenge for these guys, because they are going to find themselves in these positions. Because I think that the fair point is that I've got a feeling if Jordan James found himself in that position, I don't know if he would score that. He might not have scored, but I think he would have done something that would have worked the keeper. Maybe we would have won a corner, right, instead of just being a tame effort. If that's Aaron Ramsey, maybe he would have scored because you had a better, more attacking player. So, it's difficult to sort of see. But, it shows you that the system is working well. So that's how in the end it finished 2-2. You are right. There was that last minute challenge. I could also have shown opportunity that Mavididi had where he sort of made a run on the one-on-one.
Is that in the first half, right? Or are we talking second half now only?
That
I
was
remember seeing Mavididi on the break where, does he hold up? Does he shoot the ball? And I thought this game was the one I saw Mavididi being somewhat back, you could say, right? In terms of, what we expect from him in the championship. We know he's a top championship level winger, and maybe it's the confidence or whatnot, but you can pull the numbers up here. And just before you move on or say something that I might want to say, I think the big takeaway from me is even when we aren't 100%, it's just nice to see a Leicester team really fighting for it, like really getting down, nitty and gritty, and they'd rather run the extra mile than look like lazy, incompetent bastards. It's such a relief to see players actually fighting, actually running for it, tackling for it, and even if the quality isn't the best, and you can argue all you want about if Winks should be starting. I think Ricardo, that in my mind he should be starting, but I can see the argument between Winks and Skip in terms of obviously one's got more quality, one looks like he wants it a bit more. I think Winks might be on a small redemption arc, even if he is to leave at the end of the season on a free. But fuck me, it's nice to see players really, really looking like they actually want it. Even if it isn't the best, it's so nice to feel like they're actually putting it all out there, and I've missed that feeling.
Absolutely, because I think if this was this time last year under either Cooper or Rude, if we'd have been a man down that early on in the game, we'd have ended up losing the game like 5-0 or something like that. So yes, the opposition might be weaker, but the fact that we're even talking about we maybe even could have won it, I think is extremely good. And what I want to show you here, again, just to show you just how good a job that Marti did here. So this is the momentum graph, and I quite like this. So I think it does tell you the story of the match, because what it shows you, like I say, is that once we had the man sent off, it was all Oxford. And whilst they did score at the end of it, you can sort of see that when the team has that much momentum and possession, they're going to probably end up scoring, and they did get their goal. But if you look at the second half, you can see that it's pretty even.
Very even, yeah.
Maybe arguably we shaded it, maybe not. But you can see that for a team with 10 men, that is a really impressive second half, that we even had like a big spell where we did get the goal. And even after we scored, look, we even had a bit more pressure. Here's when the skip opportunity sort of rise. So that's brilliant substitutions, and really impressive to see the team do that. We only got a point, but that point, if it's the point difference that gets you autos or promotion or whatever into the playoffs, then, we've deserved that by grinding out the results. It's very good. I just wanted to give you what Marti said. He says, we'll never be satisfied with or happy with a point. It doesn't matter if it's home or away. On that part, I'm not happy with how we started the game, about the way we conceded 2 goals. But it was a difficult game because of development of how it was, the red card. But I really value, and that is the part I want to take with me, the second half and the personality and courage that the players showed to turn around the difficult situation. Exactly what Duck said. And then when asked about Aaron Ramsey's red card, I love this. He says, refereeing is always very difficult. I have my thoughts about it, and today is one of those days, not only is this situation, but other situations, that is better that I take a knife and cut my tongue and don't speak much. So it's that classic Mourinho, if I speak, I am in trouble kind of vibe. You can see he obviously didn't like it, but I think he's got to say that as well to defend the player, because even if Ramsey has been a bozo, you can't be getting on his back after one game. So what do we think? Hearing you my thoughts. So it was a slow start, and another sloppy goal given away, and another sloppy goal just before half time. So they're definitely the things that we've got to take as negatives, right? But we did begin to get on top, and we started to twist the knife, and that was before actually the sending off, which is a bit unfortunate. But even in the second half, you could feel that goal coming, and then when we got it, it did actually at one point feel like we were going to get the winner. Oxford made a few changes to get back into the game, but it was pretty good. So, yeah, the red card obviously changed the game, but we were better with 10 men. And Winks, Ricardo, and Vestergaard together, they provide the foundation for which we can play with. So for me, I think it's time to bring Winks and Ricardo back in personally. I think Winks, look, he obviously not really covered himself with much glory, but now the fact is he is going to be here. I think not just till January, but most likely he's going to be here for the rest of the season. And the fact is that every time he's come on the pitch for Leicester, he's looked like the best player, right? Especially when he's playing with Wiki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ricardo especially is someone who you just can't argue against. He's got 1 year left. Yeah, I really don't care. He looks like he gives everything. And he did that last season as well whenever he was able to play. I think I'm hopeful it is mainly just, slowly getting him back into the rhythm of playing 90 minutes, but I'd like to see him start at the very least and get 60, 70 minutes soon. And for Winks, he has to earn his way back in for me, and I think this game was a big step towards that. Not just with how he played quality-wise, but the ambition and will to turn around the game he showed as well. The fight, the hunger.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the Coventry game, what happens next. So, look, this is actually going to be our biggest test by far this season. And this is actually a bit worrying. But I mean, if you look at the stats here, this is the expected goals both for and against. And right now, the stats are saying that Coventry are arguably the best team in the league. Now, look, it does depend on who you've played, right? But you've got to say to him, look at that. They've got 11 goals expected to be scored. They've actually scored 15. So they've actually outperformed even the goals that they're supposed to have scored. But they are supposed to have scored 11 and they're scoring a lot of them. I do know that the game that they drew on the weekend with Norwich, they had an XG of over 4, which is crazy good, right? Even though they only scored 1. If you compare that to Leicester, you could argue that we are outperforming what we should have got on the pitch, which probably shows our quality. All right, so there you go. It's because they spat on QPR. Maybe, but
I'll say though they only got like what 1.7 xG from that game. I think
yeah,
obviously numbers are there to be underlying, and I think there's no doubt we've been, realistically a bit pessimistic in some of the play you've seen in terms of, there are worrying signs. But I think the big importance for me is how do I feel like we're growing as a team, and I feel like while there are still some big errors who are glaringly obvious, like the weak starts we've had for most of the games, it's also to me positive that we're seeing improvement, right? This game, essentially, I want to say winning it from a 10-man position, playing a 1-1, only conceding a bit of a silly own goal when you are man down is really impressive. The first goal you conceded is absolutely shocking, shouldn't happen, but so much goes behind these numbers that you can't just look at XG and expected goal against and say who is the best. But no doubt Coventry will be a huge test on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, I think a good thing is to say we are definitely getting better with every game that we play. That's only a good thing to sort of say. So I am intrigued as to what we're going to go for the lineup versus Coventry. Now, what I'm taking a guess here is that I think he will restore Winks to the team. I am interested, though, as to where he's going to play him. Because, actually, the last couple of times he came on, Winks was playing more in this position where Skip is playing. But I think a big difference in this particular game against Oxford is he came on and he played as the pivot in the middle, as the one receiving the ball. And in my opinion, that's his best position. But so far this season, it's been Booba in playing that role. I'd also like to see Ricardo come in for the same reason, but I'm not so sure he will do that. Will Monga play?
Jensen maybe for left.
That is also possible. He hasn't. The thing is, though, I think because he hasn't featured at all, it's unlike him. And I'm also sort of saying that Bobby Reed, by the way, came on right at the very end, which sort of suggests that he might play a part as well. So that's why I've put these positions here, because we know that for the next game, Ramsey can't play because he was sent off, right? So who is going to play this role? Who's going to play that role? So, for example, I could actually see, as crazy as it sounds, I could see him playing Bobby Reed in that position and playing Ayew in front of him.
I don't think that's crazy at all, to be honest, right? If you look at the strength that Reed has and the versatility he adds to the pitch as well, he to me screams like, a player that would thrive under the fluid system of Marti, right? I wouldn't be against it, especially if Lewis Page still is suffering from that knock at the England camp.
Yeah. So this is what I think he's going to play. I actually think he's going to take Skip out of the team. I think he's going to play Booba as the 6 still, but I think he is going to have Winks in the team, but on this left-hand side. I think he'll bring in Ricardo now because he scored 2 goals in 2 games. I think he'll play Reed here, and I think he'll play Ayew up top, and he'll keep with Marti. That's what I'm expecting. You can laugh or give me some credit if Marti does go for that. But then what I would do, I would be a bit more daring. I would actually bring Jordan James into the team as well. I think the fact that we've given him the number 6 shirt is very telling. The other 2 lone players don't have didn't, for example, give Ramsey the 11 shirt. So that suggests to me that, he is only going to be here for the season, where Jordan James is going to be here forever, or hopefully. But yeah, I would put them in here. I actually think I would put Ayew as a 10 and bring in Carranza. Let's see what he's all about. And I think I would start with Jerry Monga. I just don't think Mavadi's been at the races at all. And Monga didn't play at all against Oxford because of the way that the subs panned out. But look, it could go anyway. What about you, though, Duck? What would you do against Coventry?
I'd very much agree with you, right? I think Ricardo needs to get back in. I think Monga's been better than Mavadi if you look across this season so far. Wouldn't be against starting him. If Carranza was to start, I think that'll be bold. I think obviously Ayew getting a goal, and he adds something unique to the team, and I'm not sure I prefer that in the 10. I'd rather see someone like, Deacon over Reed try and take up that task, because I feel like that's something that he could actually do pretty well. But yeah, I think that's the main changes I'd want to see. But I'm gonna be honest, I very much trust Marti with how he's played the game so far, even if he hasn't always got the starting 11 correctly. His ability to change and recognize the mistakes he's either made or adapt to getting an early red card has been really impressive. And I give him the benefit of the doubt if he thinks, let's just say Jordan James is better coming off the bench at 50 minutes or 55 than starting. And yeah, we'll see. I'm very excited for the game on the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You need at least one physical midfielder in there. That's why I think he's going to keep Samari in, because I think that his physicality, maybe he flatters to deceive, but he is tall, he is fast, that he got back there to make that challenge when Vestergaard messed up. But it depends, I guess, on whether you see Jordan James as being a physical player or not. I think he is 6 foot, but he's not, doesn't have that as imposing frame as Samari. Maybe you could put both of them in the team. We'll have to wait and see. But I think you are definitely right. But for what it's worth, even though I've given commentary the big up, I say this, I've fancied Leicester in every single game this season, even against Ipswich. With our squad, and now we've got a lot of depth and our quality, there is no team that we shouldn't be expected to beat. Yes, we got relegated last season, but we were the team that finished the highest of those relegated teams. So I always have us down as favourites. Of course, it's not always going to mean that we win every game. We got done by Preston. We could easily lose this game. But I definitely fancy our chances, especially because we're at home. But definitely a difficult game coming up and the toughest test we've had so far, in my opinion. But just to show you what happened in the rest of the championship. So here we can see that the big news was Ipswich beating Sheffield United 5-0. That meant that Ruben Sayers was sacked and they brought back Chris Wilder for about
Copenhagen man, 5 games and he's out.
Well, brought back Chris Wilder for about the millionth time. But that's a bit annoying because that means when we play Sheffield United, they'll have Chris Wilder and they'll be a much harder team to beat because of that. So, it's annoying that some other teams got 3 points against them.
I think the big things that I want to take away as a Leicester fan is obviously, teams around us, Coventry, West Brom, with Middlesbrough dropping points. Birmingham as well, even if it does mean Stoke will pick up 3. And they've obviously been very competent this season. And look back to our only loss so far. That's been away at Preston. How has Preston done against the other either overperforming or highly expected teams to perform well? They've beaten Ipswich, they've beaten us, they've now drawn at Middlesbrough, or, at home to Middlesbrough, should have won that game in terms of, if you look at how late the equaliser came. So they're very clearly a tough away day, and whoever predicted them to finish bottom 3, looking at, whatever that podcast is, right, with Ryan Dilks and whatnot, they're quite clearly washed in their opinion. The second tier, they're quite clearly washed in their expert analysis because Preston and Cherry Small in particular, nowhere near getting relegated with how well they've been playing, especially at home, because that does seem to be a fortress to come to. So positive week, especially considering we only picked up 1 point.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting that so far, I don't think there's been a single team that's really clicked into gear yet. Maybe Middlesbrough, you could say they've definitely started better than people expected, but Southampton drew again there. Yeah, Ipswich had an amazing result. I think they played well, but if you look at the game, like their XG was like 1.6 and they scored 5. So it was Jaden Philogene scoring some absolutely outrageous goals that made the scoreline that crazy. It wasn't that much of a battering if you actually watched it, but I do obviously think that they will come good because I just think of the quality they've got and the manager, that it's just a matter of time. But yeah, here are upcoming fixtures. So it's really annoying. We haven't got a 3:00 game until October. It's crazy. So next game is on Saturday, 12:30, lunchtime kickoff. That's against Coventry again. But then the same weeks, we've got 2 games coming up in quick succession. Then we've got West Brom on Friday at 8:00. So that'll be an interesting one. Then we've got Wrexham. And I don't know if you've seen this. It's pretty funny. But there was a Wrexham fan that came on here yesterday and he said, can we have a refund on Connor Cody, please? So they've already...
No refunds, boy. 2 mil. We take that.
And get this, Wrexham in the Championship, they've actually faced the most amount of shots, over 100 shots they faced. And with their goalkeeper that they've got, it's working out about as well as you expected. So my opinion is I think Phil Parkinson will be sacked by Christmas. They completely got done. They signed the wrong squad. Who cares? I think we'll get 3 points in that game. Yeah.
To focus on us a bit here, right, in terms of the fixtures you've just got on screen right now. Obviously, some tougher fixtures. I think Swansea away, West Brom away, Coventry at home, all tough fixtures. Wrexham, with the shape they're in, if they keep Phil Parkinson, that's a must-get 3 points against the retired Leicester 11. But think back to how we did against Birmingham, right? I do feel, I'm not going to lie, more confident when the games are supposed to get tougher here. Because I feel like when the game gets a bit more open and it's very much the individual quality that will need to shine through, we've got a system that allows that to be happening. And we've got the better players in most positions. I'm not going to sit and say we got the best player in every position, because we haven't.
Yeah.
But we've got mostly across the board the better players. And yeah, I mean, I don't doubt it that if, Jeremy Mungo got in a 1v1 against any Coventry, West Brom, Swansea, Wrexham, or Portsmouth player, he'd fucking batter them, mate. He would destroy them 1v1. And I'm excited. I'm very excited, man. I think that's the main way I want to say this, Neil, to round out my thoughts just very, very quickly. It's a team I can get behind, and I fucking miss that feeling, man. It's so nice seeing a team scrap, fight, and really play for the badge, and I can't ask for much more.
Yeah, even the games are good to see. I mean, I did think when we went down to 10 men, oh God, here we go again. But there's actually a really good game to watch after that. In fact, to be honest with you, bizarrely, it was probably more entertaining once we went down to 10 men, which is a bit crazy because they had to try harder. But yeah, just going to show you the early table. Although 5 games in now, and obviously I think 10 is when you really start making conclusions. But you can see already that, we're only 3 points off top. And, I'm going to say it again, I think we should have beaten Preston. Jordan Ayew cuts that ball back to Harry Winks, and we could have won that one 2-1 rather than lose it 2-1. And that would have put us, joints up with Middlesbrough. But already, still above Ipswich and Southampton. They haven't really got going yet either. And that we'd rather be in this position than in the bottom 4. But early days yet. But yeah, now we can see that we're literally playing the 2 teams that are below us immediately in the next week in West Brom and Coventry.
And we're going to batter them both.
Yeah, we haven't really spoken about West Brom, but you'd probably argue that playing them away is actually a harder game than playing Coventry at home. But I'm hoping that Fatal is going to cook for Coventry for some revenge in the upcoming game.
I still see that 3-1 picture being sent, and it's absolutely embarrassing, mate. It's a few years ago. Get away with your cup final, mate. You guys always lose. It's horrible.
There you go. Right. Well, with that, we'll leave it there. Tune in tomorrow. We'll have the Foxes then. I'm not sure what the subject will be, but Locks will be posting something there. And yeah, the big game is going to be on Saturday at 12:30. So join us there for that one. Duck, thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you guys in chat. As always, do like the stream if you haven't already. Put in your comments what you think your starting 11 and score prediction will be for the game against Coventry. And we'll see you for that one. Thank you and goodbye.
Massive thank you to today's sponsor, Match Bingo. Over 200 grand has been paid out to players so far by taking sports betting, football and bingo and combining them into one amazing app. Make sure to get your bingo card for any Leicester City game in the upcoming season. Click that link in the description or via the QR code on screen.